Let's talk about the atomic mass number and the atomic number. You'll want to have watched the structure of an atom video. It's kind of foundational for a lot of these videos on these types of topics before you start this one. One caveat or aside here is that the atomic mass number and the average atomic mass are not the same thing. There's a different video on average atomic mass. So if you're looking for some information on how to calculate average atomic mass, this video isn't going to help you. So let's start with the atomic number. It's often denoted as a capital V, as you can see here. And it equals the number of protons. Your atoms are neutral, therefore your number of protons will equal the number of electrons in an atom. That's always true for an atom. Sometimes atoms lose or gain electrons, in which case then we call them an ion. And when they're an ion, then the number of protons and the number of electrons aren't equal. So just make sure you read questions carefully to see whether they're referencing an atom, which is neutral, or an ion, which is charged. Let's take an example. Which element matches the atomic numbers listed below? So the number of protons and the atomic number, when we look at the periodic table, let's take lithium for example. Lithium has this number up here and this number down here on my periodic table on the inside of my book. The 3 at the top, that is the atomic number. This number down here is called the average atomic mass. And it's not very helpful to me right now. So if I want to figure out the element that matches the atomic number, then I need to find the element that has a 53 up there on that top bit. So I take a look at my periodic table and I see that is iodine. The atom with 4 electrons would be beryllium. Excuse me, 4 electrons. Right. So I was trying to be super tricky there, and then I missed that I was supposed to be being tricky. So let me back up here and say this question is supposed to get you to think about the fact that, hey, they're neutral, so my 4 electrons would equal 4 protons, and so therefore I have access to the information I need to answer the question. Tricky, tricky. Okay, then we have the atomic mass number, which is denoted by an A often, and the mass number is equal to the number of neutrons plus the number of protons. So you remember that these guys, neutrons and protons, were both located in the nucleus, and so they were referred to as nucleons. So my mass of my atom is pretty much the mass of my nucleus. Let's take a look at an example down here. What is the mass number of an atom which contains 3 protons and 4 neutrons? Well, mass number will equal my protons plus my neutrons, so this will be 3 plus 4, so the mass number equals 7. Because the mass number of an atom comes from the fact that we're counting neutrons and counting protons, the value that I come up with will always be a whole number, because I'll have a number of protons plus a number of neutrons. Alright, let's try this from a slightly different angle. What is the mass number of an atom of chlorine with 19 neutrons? So in order to come up with mass number, I need protons plus neutrons. Well, the problem gives me that I have 19 neutrons. Check. That's great. It doesn't give me my number of protons, but it does tell me that we're talking about chlorine. So I can go to the periodic table, because I know who chlorine is, and see that chlorine has 17 protons, because its atomic number is 17. So my mass number will be equal to 17 plus 19, which is 36. Let's look at a second example. An element has a mass number of 53 and contains 24 electrons. What is the element? Well, what's interesting about this question is we actually have some information in there that we don't need. The question asks me to identify the element, and to do that, I only need the number of protons. It also tells me, oh, it doesn't tell me. Oh, it should have told me. It should have told me that this was an atom. Now, In this particular problem, it had to be referring to an atom, or else I wouldn't be able to solve the problem. So sometimes we have to make some educated guesses about what we're being asked. Since we have no information about this being a charged particle, we can say that there must be also 24 protons. And that's actually all I need to figure out the element. I didn't really need the mass number information for this particular problem, because an element with 24 protons would be chromium. And I know that by just knowing the atomic number and using the periodic table.